Hello and welcome back to The Movies Made Us Do It. Me and Matt are back. How are you, Matt?
I am really good, sir. How are you?
I'm very well. Yes, we were just talking about how much fun it was to well, we saw each other for the first time in years.
We did. Yeah, actual
And,
visual contact.
yeah, and saw June, which of course we will talk all about next week.
Indeed.
But until then, obviously it's spooky season, and with Halloween this weekend. Which makes me think, actually, I should definitely publish this tonight because it needs to be out by Halloween. We thought we'd discuss Hellraiser. That was your choice, I believe.
Yeah,
I
thought
we were going to do something. What were we going to do? We were going to do something else, and then we switched it. We switched it up.
No, I don't know what you thought we were going to do because I planned so far as the Frankenstein.
Oh, okay. Maybe I assumed you had a plan beyond. I don't know.
And I had a sort of small list of ones that I was thinking of doing.
Yeah.
Which we haven't done yet, and Hellraiser was kind of top of the list, so I thought.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, here we are. No complaints from me. Of course, written by Clive Barker, based on his short. Yeah, The Hellbound Heart. And released in 1987. And a budget of $1 million.
Yeah. Certainly made that back.
I would say so. When did you first see Hellraiser? How did you find it?
So it would have been a video job.
Oh yeah.
So I would have watched it with a friend, and we used to have horror nights where we'd go to the video shop. We'd get a load of. I mean, we were too young to drink beer.
Good old days.
We weren't drinking beer yet.
No,
but we would get a load of like Coke or whatever, and
that sounded way worse in my head then.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I probably should clarify.
Oh, we weren't drinking alcohol. We were doing Coke.
We were doing Coke instead, yeah, which is much better. Coke snacks and stuff, and so I was thinking we usually used to get about 3 or 4 movies, and I thought I can't think of what else we would have watched, and I looked at what the horror movies that came out that year.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to give you a few things. I mean, I've got a feeling I know what one of them was.
Sure.
So we've got Angel Heart.
Okay.
Bad Taste. Bates Motel. The Believers. Billy the Kid versus the Green Bay's Vampire. Blood Rage. There's about 20 movies with blood in the title. Chinese Ghost Story. Creepazoids. Creepshow 2. Dolls, Doom Asylum, Evil Dead 2, Evil Town, The Falling, The Gate, Ghoulies 2,
Gate.
Graveyard Disturbance, Hell High, The Hidden, Howling 3, Jaws the Revenge.
Oh, that's a classic. Quote unquote classic.
The Monster Squad.
Oh, nice.
My Best Friend's a Vampire. Near Dark, Necromantic, Necropolis, Night Vision, Night Flyers, Nightmare on Elm Street 3: The Dream Warriors,
nice,
Prince of Darkness, Redneck Zombies, Return to Horror High, Return to Salem's Lot, Rock and Roll Nightmare, Slaughterhouse, Slumber Party Massacre 2, Stage Fright, The Stepfather, The Stepford Children, The Video Dead, Zombie Death House, and Zombie High.
Nice. There's some great movies in there.
Yeah, so
certainly for your VHS rental, VHS rental days. There's a lot of fodder in there. I mean, I'm sure Blood Rage was a rental of mine at some point for sure. Evil Dead 2, I think I probably saw later, but I'm sure I rented it at some point after I'd seen it.
I've got a weird feeling I saw this movie with Angel Heart.
Okay.
And maybe Blue Monkey.
Okay.
Which was fucking awful.
Yeah, but you know.
I mean, Angel Heart's great.
Yeah, Angel Heart's great, and Hellraiser's great. So you did all right.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you sandwiched it in the middle.
I would not have remembered which order we did it in, but yeah, I imagine it might have been.
Yeah. So you saw it first on rental, and what was your impression when you first saw it? Did you know what it was about did you just see the VHS cover, which is quite imposing?
No, it's just, I don't think we did. I think we might have read, because we would have got things like Fangoria and stuff. So we probably had a vague idea about it. I don't think we sort of expected quite what we saw.
No,
because it's not really. It's certainly not like Freddy or any of the Halloween
It's interesting.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because the marketing makes it seem like it's all about Pinhead. It's going to be Pinhead going around killing everyone.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's weird because obviously I 87, I was born in 84, so I wasn't around when this movie came out. Well, I was certainly not around to watch it. But I always remember as a kid, like I have really vivid memories of being a kid in a video store and seeing the image of Pinhead everywhere, even before I'd seen the movie. Like I remembered Pinhead. It's quite an iconic look, obviously. But I had no idea what it was about. I just always remember Pinhead being there,
Yeah. Well, I think because of the way he looks, you just think he's some sort of psychopathic murderer,
or something.
Because he's usually when you see in sort of like, I don't know, what was that? There was that model shop that used to have loads of like stand-ups inside, and you'd get like there was always a Pinhead stand-up, and he'd always be put next to all the others. So if you didn't know any better, you'd just presume he was another slasher.
Yeah.
If certainly if you didn't know any better, because he's always loved him. He is a true horror Pinhead, or the Hell Priest, whatever you want to call him. He's a true horror icon, and when you put him next to that sort of thing, you just think, oh yeah, he's just one of those. And he's kind of not.
Not at all. I mean,
far from,
and not very much in the movie, to be honest.
No, it's not about him.
No, it's not about him or the Cenobites at all, really.
No.
But we'll get into that.
Later movies would sort of focus on them a lot more. But
yes, absolutely. And weirdly, I think my first Hellraiser memory is, I want to say Hellraiser 3. Whichever the one is with the club night. I can't remember which one that is. I think that's 3, the one with the club night. I remember seeing a bit of that film. That's probably my first. It may not be, but that in my head is the first memory I have of Hellraiser. Is seeing a bit from that movie, because I remember the Pinhead being stuck in the sculpture thing. The pillar.
Yeah.
And then obviously eventually I must have, I don't even think I rented it. I think I saw it at a friend's house. Again, like you with the horror thing. It was like, hey, I've watched these horror films. What horror films have you got? And then we're going to go to each other's houses and watch, Yeah. So I think it was like that. I mean,
that was how horror worked back then.
It was. I miss those days.
You'd have a couple of horror movies. One of your mates would have a couple of horror movies, and you go, oh, we're all going round to so-and-so's house. What have you got to bring? And we're like, oh, well, I've got this, and I got this. It's like, great, you bring that, I'll bring this, and we'll also go round and we'll watch these.
Yeah, half the time taped off of TV at some God knows what time of the morning,
Yeah.
But yes, those were the days. Anyway, let's get into it.
Not bad. Three's at least got Terry Farrell in it.
Yeah, I think the first two I enjoy a lot. The third one's okay, and then it kind of Some of they've all got like, even the worst ones have got like little elements that I don't mind or I like, but
I not quite realised there were 9 sequels.
I do, because me and my friend Janie, who's in a couple of my films, we watched all of them. At one point, we did a marathon, and a marathon is the word. Because they get very ropey, to be honest, in my opinion.
I don't think I've seen one after Hellseeker.
So the last one I saw, Hellseeker's the one when she comes back, isn't it? Is that the one with? Am I right in thinking that?
I think you're right.
Yeah, Kirsty comes back, and she's. Oh, didn't he think he killed her or something in a car crash, and it turned out she'd she was collecting his souls in the end, or she was collecting souls, didn't she?
Yeah, she turns the tables on him.
That's right. I vaguely remember. I remember.
Yeah, I like I say, I only vaguely remember that one too.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
At least Kirsty was in it, which was nice.
I think that was their big sort of get for it, wasn't it? It's like, hey, this one won't be terrible because it's got one of the originals in it, but it's like,
yeah, it's got Ashley Lawrence in it, so at least it's got that in it.
Yeah, I think at the point that Doug stopped bothering to turn up, I was like, definitely done now.
Yeah, I think I was probably in a similar thing. And then I've heard sort of good things about Judgment.
Yeah, some of them are okay. They've got their moments, but for me, the solid ones, the first one I love, and the second one I mostly love. I love the visuals in the second one. We see a lot more of the other dimension, and that stuff's awesome.
I think the second one's my favourite.
There's an argument to be made for that. I wouldn't argue that.
I really love Chennard.
Yeah.
And I think Julia gets more. I mean,
she gets more to do for sure.
She gets slightly more to do, and I think it's a nice sort of continuation of Kirsty.
Yeah, she's a more interesting character in the sequel.
Yeah,
because she's not just in this. She's like the innocent girl. In the second one, she's much more of a sort of badass, really, if that makes sense. She's kind of fighting back for a lot more of the film, rather than in this one, she's kind of the helpless, innocent girl.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it later.
She's the one.
She does step up. I mean, in the end, she does.
Yeah.
But
that's what I mean. But it's only at the end of this movie that she does that. In the second one, we're starting with that kind of character, so she starts off on a better footing, and kind of continues. But yes, in this film,
she sort of becomes the mother character, doesn't she? She sort of with I forget what the girl's name.
Yeah, I can't remember.
What is her name?
It doesn't matter. We're talking about the first one. Tiffany. Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Tiffany.
Yeah.
I think, but I love Kenneth Cranham's performance as Chennard is amazing.
Yes, it's incredible.
It's definitely my favourite. I think he's my favourite Cenobite, even over Pinhead. I just think he's like just purely evil and nasty.
I think my favourite Cenobite is the the fucking CD changer one.
Really?
Yeah, I just love it. It's just such an absurd design. I just think he's fucking when he turned up, I was like, that is the most ridiculous thing ever. That's awesome. Like, he's just so stupid. Because by that point, the films are just getting like, really stupid. And I know something about that guy. I was like, that's awesome. He's just so stupid.
I like the say in the same movie you've got the
they go crazy. That's the movie where they go stupid with
the artists. Like the artist or he's got the piston head, which I think I love. That is an amazing makeup job on that.
The makeup job on a lot of the Cenobites is incredible, and I'm sure we'll talk about it during this film. But they get so creative in the later films with the Cenobites.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's start, shall we? And kind of almost starts in a classic horror style. We just have black screen with white text as the theme plays out. A great score for this movie, by the way.
Yeah,
I hope this. I was hoping you'd say that.
He wanted a band. Oh, now I'm going to forget what they were called. There was a band he wanted to play on do the soundtrack for. But in the end, the company went, no, we want to sort of do our own sort of thing. So it got changed. Coil, that was it. The group called Coil.
Oh, Coil. Okay.
Was the original thing, and they changed it. I think that a lot of their stuff went on to be in other movies, but.
Sure.
I love the soundtrack is amazing.
That's good. I was worried we might have a first contact situation here where I'd be like, I love the score, and you'd be like, it's awful. So that's good. But after the opening with the wonderful score, we start in Morocco, I believe. And we meet Frank and his disgusting, dirty hands.
What is it with it? The vendor's got like these disgusting fingernails as well. It's like,
like, guys, wash your hands. This is obviously pre-COVID situation going on here. And he's...
I'm not sure Frank would give a fuck about
that
anyway.
Oh god, no, he's gross. And he's looking to he's just chucking money down on the table at first. You're like, what's he doing? He's just chucking piles of money down. But of course,
the says, "What is your pleasure, sir?"
Yes, and of course he's looking for the puzzle box, as it's called at that point. And so obviously it's the lament configuration, and it's
or the is it the Lemashard configuration?
Possibly. I've always known
it's
as
what
the
it's
lament
called.
configuration.
It's what it's called in the story, and it's what it's called later when they do the stuff with the family.
Yeah, they've retconned a lot of that, haven't they? Apparently, I think Clive Barker himself is like he retconned his own book because the movies were so popular. Basically, like I think after the popularity of this, because obviously Pinhead, he's basically become a thing now in the Clive Barker books, because of the success of him as a character in the movie and things. But so he's looking to buy this antique puzzle box, and of course the dealer tells him, take it, it's yours. And of course I think Frank's like, cool, I've bought it with all this money, and then he walks away, and the dealer's like, it always was. And then of course Frank takes it home and starts trying to solve it. So of course I guess we learn later that of course solving it, it will supposedly give you like the ultimate pleasure and ecstasy, and it's like the next level for thrill seekers, I suppose, in terms of pleasure and whatnot. So he's kind of sat there surrounded by candles. It's like a real cool image, as he's kind of solving it in his attic. And one thing that's not really held up to HD is I can really see when they're using different versions of the box now. Never used to notice that so much before, but now you can, because obviously they made various versions for various configurations,
different openings,
and you can really see it now. You can see where the different bits are kind of apart, and it's kind of funny. But that's the problem with these films weren't made for HD.
Well, I mean, we've discussed that on a number of occasions.
I think we have.
It's not kind to older movies.
No, I mean this film holds up for the most part. It's just little things like that kind of amuse me.
Yeah.
But of course he manages to solve the box, and light starts coming through the walls. To the shock of Frank, suddenly we see hooks fly out and start grabbing at Frank's skin, which is a great practical effect, that the skin sort of grabbing and tearing and pulling. I don't think we see exactly what happens there, but effectively we know that he's torn apart.
That he's torn apart, and you see Pinhead.
You see the Cenobites, don't you? Yeah.
Rearranging his face.
Yes, they kind of arrange the bits of his face on the floor. I'm not quite sure why they do that, but I guess Pinhead's just like, it's a puzzle, something to do.
The story is a lot more goes into a lot more detail of that, and it's Frank is not exactly deceived, but he's told what what he'll get from doing this, and it's like a proper ritual. He leaves. He's got like he does these sort of rituals before he opens it, and he leaves like there's like a jar of piss that he's got on this altar for them, and he's got all these sort of like skulls and things that he leaves for them.
Yeah.
And when they turn up, he's surprised. He was expecting like naked women and stuff, and he's very surprised by what turns up. And there are a lot more because of the nature of the story, and they have to tone down the movie. It's a lot more sexual.
Yeah.
In the in the story as well.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I read the short, actually. Long time. But yes, so we don't see any more than that, apart from of course the room then returns to its original state, doesn't it? Once they're departed, it's like nothing ever happened.
Yes.
And then of course we cut to
and I do love
the
the way that as soon as the box is open, it's sort of, you know, the dimension slides in.
Yes,
to our existence, sort of thing. It pulls in the pieces of you know, like the chains and the hanging columns, and you know, obviously the Cenobites, the Cenobites bring with them.
Yeah,
and I like the idea that because in the book it tells you that they're hell priests of the Order of the Gash, which is just like, that just sounds lovely, doesn't it?
I think that's
exactly what you want to meet, is priests from the Order of the Gash.
So a gash, I think they've expanded on that. A gash is a group of Cenobites. It's like it's what they call each group. So it's that like it's a gash of Cenobites, including Pinhead. So I don't know whether they've just added that since. I think there's a lot of lore that's been added to. Obviously, like with anything, there's a lot of lore that's been added to over the years.
And one of the things I didn't actually realize at the time until, you know, later, was I always just the soundtrack that goes on whenever somebody's opening the box, and the chiming when the Cenobites turn up, is I always presumed that was just the soundtrack, but in the story, the actual puzzle box makes the tune when it's opening. It actually and the sounds of the bell is brought by the Cenobites. It's like they're announcing themselves, you know.
They're announcing their presence.
Yeah, which I did not realize until I read the story.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that is the case in the movie, because no one acts like they're hearing anything. If that makes sense, it's kind of like, I'm not sure that they did in the book, but in the movie compared to the book, that is. Because it's more, like you said, it's more part of the soundtrack in the film, because no one seems to ever react like, I can hear music, you know.
It's like, what's that?
Yeah, what the hell's that?
Got bell chiming sound? Because I think in the story, there's like it gets really loud at one point. I think almost painfully loud.
Yeah. So, several years later, Larry, who is Frank's brother, and his wife Julia go to basically look at the house.
Yeah, it was their mother's house.
Yeah.
And he's basically, she's died, and he's at some point, and he's decided it never quite tells you why. I think they move away from New York for some reason.
Yeah.
And that they decide to go there. There's obviously some sort of marital problems going on. They're clearly not a happy couple.
Everyone, apart from Kirsty, in this movie is a complete and utter asshole. They're all horrible, which kind of makes the movie fine. Like, they're all just awful people, like pretty much all of them in their own way. Even Larry's a dickhead. They're all just thoroughly unlikable, which is fine because it works.
I kind of feel sorry for Larry though, because he feels put upon.
I feel sorry for him.
Wrong choice of wife.
Yes, clearly.
And cannot keep up with her.
No.
Bless him.
But he is a bit of an asshole. Like at the dinner party, he's like, I hope all of you die. Like, all of you. I hope you all die. Actually, Kirsty's boyfriend's alright. He's okay. But this family.
Listen, Kirsty, I love how Kirsty is impressed by his disappearing cigarette trick, which is hilarious.
But yes, of course. So they start looking around the house, and we see that Julie once had a romantic encounter with Frank, but obviously chose to marry Larry instead.
And it's the whole thing about the house, which is obviously, you know, it's clearly a Clive Barker thing. Is the house is like full of religious icons.
Yeah.
Everywhere there's just, you know, pictures of Jesus and statues of Jesus and Mary everywhere, and he makes a sort of comment about his mother and stuff, and she says, well, he says, no, we're going to move in here and we just get rid of all that crap, sort of thing. And she says something along the lines of, well, won't Frank mind? Is like, Frank's fine. He'll like the money. It's all right.
He'll like the money for crack or whatever the hell he's doing these days, you know.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a very high opinion of his brother.
And when when Julia goes upstairs and she finds his room full of
it's like a sleeping bag on a floor and just trash everywhere, isn't it? Pretty much.
Yeah, little Japanese sort of Notsuke things, like sexual Notsuke things, and she finds a box full of pictures of him in like various sort of sadomasochistic sort of positions with various girls and things, and she's definitely having a moment there. She's sort of definitely feeling some stuff.
She's probably remembering back to some stuff.
Yeah, and you realise that not only did she have a thing with him, it was like basically like the week before the wedding.
Yeah. It was like a super intense, like crazy thing up to the moment of the wedding. Like, I almost wonder. I guess because if it wasn't for the way that Frank leaves, and I know we get to that in a later scene, but I always had the impression that if it wasn't for Frank leaving, she would have stayed with him and not gone through with the wedding.
Yeah, probably.
Because she's sort of like begging him not to leave later on.
And she keeps one of the pictures. There's a picture of there's like a normal picture of him with a woman, and she tears the woman off and keeps a picture of him.
Mm-hmm.
And we get the well, first of all, she screams and he comes upstairs. But I do also you get the what's his name? The guy? Is it Larry?
Larry, yeah.
Larry he goes into the kitchen, and you think, wow, that kitchen is just absolutely revolting.
It is, and it's kind of weird because, like, I guess it's because I don't know, because we kind of see that Frank died like years ago, right?
I don't know whether it's years ago. I'm not sure what the time period is.
It's supposed to be years later, I think, that they go in there, but I could be wrong. But it's really weird because there's like half-eaten food, there's like maggots all over it and stuff, and you're like, well, surely by now you'd think. But I guess they do say as well, because I know Julia does say when they find the stuff upstairs, she's like, is it squatters? Maybe it's squatters. But obviously it's not until they find the little Japanese things that are like, oh no, that's Frank. It's definitely Frank.
No, he's not been here for... Well, yeah, he does say he's not been here for a while because of downstairs in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But they don't. I guess they don't really specify how much time has passed. But
no.
Yeah, I mean, because the K is... It's not completely sort of, desiccated, is it? It's still rotting, so I guess it can't be that long.
Can't have been like, you would have thought, unless they have had squatters in there,
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, so like they see how just horrendous this place is, and then suddenly the phone rings, and it's Larry's daughter, Kirsty, obviously not Julia's daughter. And Kirsty's mum died years ago, and then Larry remarried this bitch, and he's like, Kirsty, hey, we're at the house, you're coming to live with me now, yeah? And she's like, no. He's like, I've told you, I am like, I'm finding an apartment. And he's like, don't find an apartment. Why are you bothering? Why are you wasting your money? And then he's kind of like, come and see the house. And it's like, you're not, like, in the state it's in, you are not going to convince her to come and stay here.
Really not want my daughter to come to that house and see the disgusting state of it.
The thing that amazes me as well is like, after this conversation, they're like, hey, let's move in this Sunday. And it's like, do you want to like get it cleaned first? And like, you really want to move in? Do
you want to go through with a flamethrower and just make sure everything that's in the house is dead?
Because I would imagine it would take a good week or so to like deep clean and get that place like in any fit state to be moving in. But he's like, nah, fuck it, let's move in now. It's like, okay. But yeah, they decide they're gonna move in. So
she does take Julie does take some persuading.
She's not like 100% on board, but she goes along with it, I think, more than anything else.
Yeah, and I must say, Larry, played by Andrew Robinson. I mean, it was obviously we saw this before. He was Garrick, But now, every time I watch it, I just keep seeing Garrick.
And I think, it's hard not to.
It's also when he first turned up, when I first saw him as Garrick, I just kept there's a certain phrase he says later, which I won't say yet, but I kept expecting Garrick to say it one day, and it was like, and also, of course, he was Scorpio in one of the Dirty Harry movies.
Yes, he was. Yes.
Which, so he's got a history of playing Romans.
Oh, he is fantastic in this film.
He's great.
It's funny you say that. I always find that with Andreas Katsoulis. Like anything I see him in, I'm like, oh, it's Jakar. Even if he's like in Star Trek, I'm like, it's Jakar as a Romulan. I just can't.
Yeah.
I can't not see it.
And just he was the one-armed man in the remake of the Fugitive, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yes, yeah.
And I do love it when you get those sort of actors that turn up in things, and you go, well, at least you know that they're going to turn in a good performance.
Oh yeah, yeah.
However small their part, you know they're going to be pretty good at whatever they did. Because Andreas Katsoulis played so many gangsters.
Oh, gangsters and villains for ages, and then he was a terrific actor.
He was.
But so Sunday comes around, and they've got this, like, again, like, nobody but assholes in this film. These fucking moving people. Like, Jesus.
Yeah.
They turn up and they've got this mattress, which everyone pretends is, like, the heaviest thing in the world, which I don't really get. It's a mattress, guys.
So what is that mattress made of?
I don't know.
Job of pushing the fucking thing.
This fucking the stuff with this fucking mattress goes on for like what feels like half an hour. They're trying to get this goddamn thing in, and it's like, guys, it's a mattress. Can't you put it down on the stairs and slide it up the stairs? Because that's what I would have probably done. But they're like determined to like try and angle it and like fuck about with it. It's like, what are you doing? And then I love like Julia like comes out, and the guy's just like, "Have you got any beer?" And it's like, "Mate, we're hiring you to do a job. The fuck?"
And also, they're like so leery of her.
Oh my god! Immediately, yeah.
She you can tell that she sort of gets off on it. She does enjoy the attention,
for sure. But...
And the guy, when he says to him, about the beers, and he says, "Yeah, we've got some beer in the fridge," sort of thing, and then he sort of says, "Oh well, no, everybody else must be busy, so I'll go and get." And you think, why the fuck are you giving them beer now?
I know.
You're halfway through the fucking job.
I was like, if you're lucky, you'll get a cup of tea, but like, we'll finish the job first.
Exactly.
And also, I'm helping you as part doing your job, because Larry's helping them at this point.
Larry clearly is doing more than they are.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel like they're friends of the family or anything. It feels like they've been hired to move this stuff.
It just feels like they're just two random blokes.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a story that which I think is quite funny. It was of Doug Bradley when because a lot of the cast seemed to have been Barker's friends from when he was a theatre guy and from school and things, and Bradley was one of his friends from school, I think it was, and he said, "What part do you want?" And he says, although it's been conflated, the story, he said, but initially it was a case of, well, do I want the part of the removal that man or Pinhead? And he said he thought very briefly of being the removal guy because at least people saw his face, And he said, it was his first movie, and he wanted as many people. And then he thought, no, I think really I will go for the Pinhead role. And you think, thank fuck for that,
Yeah. I mean, surely by that point, you would have known 87. By then, it's the horror villains that get the recognition in movies, not the heroes or certainly the moving person.
I don't think they were, although they were, obviously everybody's aware that it's the horror villains, but I don't think they thought, because they weren't making that sort of movie.
Yeah, yeah.
This is more of it's a gothic family.
You
horror,
wonder,
really.
yeah, and you wonder whether like. I guess on paper you might hear it and be like, I don't know. But if he'd actually got to see the makeup job they were going to do, he probably would have been like, oh fuck yeah, that's what I'm doing. Like, I'm not being the removal guy.
Yeah.
But on paper you don't know, do you? You're like, well, what kind of budget is it going to get? What's it going to look like? Because because you can see it. It's clear you can see his face. You know, it's not like you can't see his face. So I guess he's just taking away what he thought at the time. But thank God he made that choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like a lot of people have said, well, actually, one of the makeup, the prosthetics guy, he said that, you know, in actual fact, the makeup and stuff is only like 1%, 10% of that performance.
Oh yeah,
the rest of it is all Bradley.
Yeah, 100%. His performance is fantastic, and shouldn't be understated. But as if you didn't like the removal guys enough, Kirsty turns up to the house.
Yeah.
And they're instantly creepy over her as well. And she's like having none of it. And it's great, actually. It's a great scene because it shows the complete contrast between Julia, who's like all about it, and Kirsty, who's like, get the fuck out of my face. Like, I'm just going to go see my dad, you know.
You motherfuckers, move out my way.
And don't they say to Larry at one point, they're like, oh, you know, she's like mother like daughter, you know, oh, she's like hot like your wife.
Looks. Yeah, he says she's got her mother's looks, and he says her mother's dead.
Yeah. And he's like,
they do at least have the decency to look embarrassed by that.
Well, the thing is, though, they've got they're embarrassed by that, and they do say sorry, but it's like, but you weren't sorry for saying, hey, your daughter's hot like your wife. You know, like, you literally just like, Jesus Christ, guys. But I think it kind of shows that everyone sees Larry as a walkover. Like, everyone is happy to just walk over him. Even these removal guys are just like, you know, will openly just say to your face these things, you know.
He's a completely broken man. He's just beaten by the world and his wife, I think. It's what he is.
Yeah. And of course, Larry immediately tells Kirsty, you know, be nice to Julia because she hates moving. And it's like, oh God, you just know that Julia's just awful all the time. All the time.
She's literally the wicked stepmother.
Yeah. Absolutely. And
just Kirsty goes to make tea.
Yeah.
And they go into the kitchen. You think, wow, that kitchen is really clean. How quickly did they do that? Did they just start in there?
I don't know.
I mean, it's still a horrible kitchen, but it's clean. It's definitely cleaner.
Yeah. There's no more maggots and big bugs flying about in there. But yes, Julia's looking at the photo of Frank. And she spills water out of the tap, doesn't she, in the kitchen?
The tap breaks, doesn't it? And Razor.
Mm-hmm. And this is what reminds her of the night before the wedding, isn't it? When she's in the pouring rain, and Frank comes in asking for the towel, and says that he came for the wedding, but he's going to stay for Julia. And of course, Julia lets him in. And then, of course, it segues back to Kirsty asking for a towel, doesn't it? Because he's asking for a towel, and then it kind of, she snaps out of it, and Kirsty's like, "Do you have a towel?" And of course, Julia says there's one in the bathroom, which made me think, like, that's the obvious place. You probably didn't even need to ask, to be honest. You're probably going to be like, I'm just popping in to grab a towel, you know. But yeah, Kirsty kind of tries her best here, I think, to be friends with Julia. Like, she's trying. Trying, but Julia's just like absolutely not interested.
No, give a fuck.
And of course, she starts remembering when she had sex with Frank.
Yeah.
And he's a bit of a violent asshole. Not a very nice guy.
Oh, it's the whole thing is completely.
Everyone's horrible in this movie.
It's not even borderline rape. It's practice rape.
Yeah.
However, she does enjoy it.
Yes, she enjoys it, but he certainly forces her.
Being raped is that she is actually enjoying it. So it's not.
Yeah.
I love the whole juxtaposition of you've got Larry and these workmen moving,
grunting and pushing the mattress up the stairs. Yeah,
and it cuts between them moving this mattress and the Julia and Frank having sex.
Yeah.
And when you can see Larry's hand getting closer to this nail.
Yeah. That nail is sticking so far out of the wall.
Yeah, is it sticking out of the banister, or is it?
I think so.
It's sticking out. And as you literally, as the sexual thrusting is happening, his hand is just moving closer and closer to this nail.
Yeah.
And when you get the actual climax, he literally drags his hand across this.
It looks gross
this
as well.
Nail.
Yeah, it looks really gross.
It's really good. It's a really well done sort of bit of thing, and I love that he's obviously it's a deep cut.
Oh yeah, he needs stitches. They do say he needs stitches.
He's clearly afraid of blood. And he's like,
oh yeah.
I'm gonna pass out, sort of thing. And so it just adds to the whole, oh my god, he is such a fucking wuss.
Yeah, and also, after you've watched this movie once and you rewatch it, and Larry's like, I hate blood, it's like, you're in the wrong fucking movie, mate. Like, you're like in the worst movie.
I feel really sorry for you.
Yeah, exactly. But of course, Julia says, you're going to need stitches. So they head out to the doctors to get it stitched up, and Kirsty goes with them. But as they leave, of course, blood has dripped onto the floor. And it kind of gets sucked up into the floorboards. And this is amazing. This practical, so cool. Yeah. I've always loved this scene. It's probably my favorite scene in the movie, I think, is this reanimation that starts here.
Yeah.
We get it. I can't remember how they did it. I think they melted down, didn't they, and reversed the shot in some of it. And
it's all reversed melting stuff. It was all like wax and sort of string that they pulled out to help the the process of the melting. And they've got like rigs underneath the floorboards to sort of pump the blood out and the goo out and all that sort of stuff.
Amazing.
And to move the boards up and down, when it's coming out, it's still amazing. It's still great. It's
Such
still
a
fantastic.
Great shot. It really is. It really is. So Frank is back to life, kind of. As much as he can be.
There's the way it's constructed. So when you first see the heart underneath the floorboards beating, which is really great, and he slowly goos into existence.
He's a very gooey man for the rest of this movie.
The shot I love is the way you get those. I mean, at first you're not even quite sure what they are, but they're arms. You get those arms shoot out of the ground, and they're sort of stuck in the air for a bit, and then they bend.
Yeah.
And
starts to form the
form onto the floor, and you get the fingers start pushing out of the hand, sort of, it starts forming a hand, and the fingers start pushing out, and you see this brain form on the floor, and then there's this. You see this spinal column appear, and it's just so good.
It looks amazing.
Like even the way it can, the spine connects to the brain and comes up, and that amazing scream.
Yeah.
Almost like birth scream as he sort of almost, I wouldn't say fully formed, but almost fully formed. It's such a great shot. It's fucking amazing. They did such a good job.
Insanely good practical effect, and like you said, the scream as well. The like sort of birth into undeath. Amazing.
Yeah.
So that night, it's the dinner party. Kirsty, Julia, Larry, Steve, who's Kirsty's boyfriend, and some other assholes. Just total assholes. They're having a dinner party, and Julia basically says, "I'm feeling tired. I'm gonna go." Oh, this is where we get the cigarette thing as well, isn't it? Here we get the cigarette trick, which, like you said, like Kirsty's like, "Oh my god, it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen." But to be fair, if I was sat at that table, I'd be like, "Oh, at least there's some entertainment, Like I can't be dealing with these people."
Yeah, there is that.
But so Julia says, she's going to bed. She's feeling tired. She heads upstairs, or she might say she's got a headache or something. She says she's got a headache a few times in this film. Anyway, she walks upstairs and she's. I guess she just wants to be by herself and remember more about Frank. So she heads up to the room, but then she finds some sort of rat guts on the floor. And then, of course, Frank grabs her. He's just like, he grabs her, so obviously she's going to turn and look at him, but then he's immediately like, don't look at me, don't look at me.
Yeah.
And obviously Julia is terrified because he looks wrong, fucking gross at this point. He's not. He's mostly bone and goo at this point.
Yeah, with a bit of sinew and the odd muscle, but not quite. You know that you can still see his bones and things, and his legs aren't working yet. His legs aren't properly formed.
Yeah. And of course Frank says that he's Frank. He says it's Frank, and he explains that the blood on the floor has brought him back, but he needs more to be whole again. So Kirsty's kind of, I don't know if she hears something upstairs or whether she just suspects Julia, but she starts kind of coming up the stairs like, what the hell's going on up here? You know,
she says I think she says she's drunk. She's sort of slightly drunk. And I thought that was a weird comment as well. Actually, the boyfriend says when she says,
"Oh God,"
he pours her a drink, and she says, "Oh, I'm going to be too drunk to stand up."
And he's like, "So lie down."
Lie down.
Again, though, I think it just shows how little respect anyone's got for Larry. Like, no one respects him at all, to where he's willing to speak to his daughter like that in front of him. But I mean, Kirsty should have turned around and slapped him. I would have.
You would have thought so.
Yeah.
I like to. I guess put it down to an experience.
Yes. Yeah. But of course, Julia comes out and says, good night to Kirsty. And then Kirsty and Steve head off, don't they? They start walking down the street. And this is where she sees the tramp guy, isn't it, for the first time?
No, that's later when she's got her job.
I thought she saw him briefly on the street here, and then later in her job as well. But maybe I'm wrong.
I think
I might be wrong, because he turns up a couple of times. I can't quite remember all the times. I thought she saw him very briefly here, but I could be wrong.
Maybe she does see him passing in this point then.
And he turns out to be the most awesome thing ever by the end of the movie. I absolutely love that ending. It's so cool.
They get to like a tube station, and they're sort of like making out in the tube. It's like, really? That you want to make love there? That's disgusting.
I know.
That's a horrible looking place to have a smooch.
And she's talking to him.
They're young, and I'm sure I've smooched in worse places.
Sure. She's telling him how he's too polite and stuff, and it's like, did you not just hear him at the dinner party? It was not very polite, like at all.
No.
But yeah, of course, like you said, they start kissing in like this gross place.
This is also my only real problem with this movie is clearly this movie is made in England.
Yeah.
And clearly a lot of the voices have been dubbed.
Yes, yeah.
Because they, obviously they were going to be an American family that moved to England, sort of thing. But they decided at some point that it would appeal to American audiences if they were all American and they made it in America. So they had to basically make England look and sound like America.
Yeah.
And they do a really bad job of it.
It almost comes across as like Italian horror in some ways. Like,
it feels very Italian horror, doesn't it?
Yeah, which I kind of like. I kind of like that feel of it, but you're right. It's not intentional and it doesn't, it's quite clunky. But yeah. So they start kissing him and whatnot, and then Julia kind of waits for Larry to fall asleep, I guess, and then she heads back to the attic, where she tells Frank that she will help him. So she's gonna start finding blood for him. And
also, should say that Claire Higgins, who plays Julia,
she's amazing.
Is so amazing.
She's amazing.
She is a fucking phenomenal actress.
Oh, when I say everyone's an asshole in this movie, like I mean that. Like the actors and actresses in this film are amazing at playing assholes.
Yeah, they're great.
Like they're all great. She's incredible. She's like, I think she's the glue that keeps this film together. Her performance. Completely.
It's her. I think her without her performance, I don't think it would hold up half as well.
I agree,
because she's completely like you said. Literally the glue that holds it all together.
She really
she does. I mean, there are times when you do feel that she does feel sympathy.
Oh yeah, I think.
However, deeply, you know, she's not just a. I mean, she's almost a full-on villain, but there are moments where you see that there is some humanity there.
Yeah, one scene in particular, you can see that she does actually care for Larry, there is a moment, brief though it may be, there is a moment.
And also, one of my favorite things is that Claire Higgins also plays the head of the Sisterhood of Karn.
Yes,
in several Doctor Who episodes, which really pleased me when she turned up.
Oh,
I think does she first turn up in Night of the Doctor?
Yes, I think that's her first appearance, and then she turns up quite a few times after that, doesn't she?
Yeah, it pleased me so much when she turned up as the head of the Sisterhood of Karn. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, that short is incredible.
It's one of the best Doctor Who things ever, isn't it?
It really is.
It's fucking amazing.
Yeah,
I really wish they would have done more with McGann.
Well, sorry. I remember after that aired, everyone was like, make a McGann spin-off now. Just do a McGann spin-off. Yes. Come on, that'd be amazing. But yeah, that's great. So anyway,
there's plenty of audios, but
but I think people were like, hey, he still looks young enough. He could pull it off. We could do this. Totally. We could make this happen. But yeah, so meanwhile, Kirsty is dreaming, and we get the first of these dream sequences with the bed, which kind of gets covered in blood, and she pulls the sheets off and sees that it's her father, and then she screams and wakes up.
Mutilated father.
Yes, foreshadowing. And Steve obviously asks if she's okay. She just says, she's dreaming, but it has disturbed her enough because she phones Larry.
Yeah, I did actually think it's quite sweet that she's in the bed and he's actually he's sleeping on the floor, which I thought was quite sweet.
Yeah.
One of the few moments of sweetness in the movie.
He's all right. He is one of the few. He is one of the few.
Yeah. He's not a complete dick.
No. Has his moments, but
yeah.
So yeah, she calls and Larry answers and says that he's okay. And of course he says, "You sleep well, okay?" And I love you too, sweetie, which obviously comes up later, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That I love you, sweetie. And of course, Frank overhears this. And just says Kirsty in a very gross way.
In a very unclely way.
Suggest that he's But anyway, the next day, Julia heads out to the nearest pub, and she's like, right. And she finds like the sleaziest man at the bar. This guy. Oh my god.
It's not even it's not a pub. That's wine bar. That is. Isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Sorry, sorry. My uncultured way. Yes, it's a wine bar. And she's looking all fancy and stuff, and she just finds this absolute sleaze at the bar. And like she doesn't, and you can tell she's not into it at all. Like, because he comes up and he's like, "Not much fun drinking alone, is it?" And she's just like, "Not much," but you can see she's not really interested. But of course, she obviously agrees to kind of have a drink with him, and then they head back to the house. And of course, this man is just instantly all over her, and he's like, "Oh, you're so beautiful. You're very beautiful." And Julia's like, "Hey, come upstairs. Come upstairs." And of course, they go up to the attic, and this should be your first red flag, mate. You get up there, and there's no bed in the attic. You're like, "Why are we in the attic?" This is weird.
Just gonna do it on the floor. I was like, okay.
Yeah, and she's like, "Take your clothes off," which he starts doing. She's still fully clothed, just stood there, and he's like, "Are you gonna do this?" And she's like, "Yeah, maybe." Like, maybe I will. And of course, he stood there in his underwear, and Julia locks the door. Oh yeah, of course. Then he says he needs to go to the toilet, doesn't he? He's like, "Oh, I need to go to the toilet."
It's risky. He needs to empty his bladder.
Yeah. And then of course she grabs a hammer, and as soon as he comes through the door, she just whacks him with it over the head, and he falls to the floor. And then of course we see Frank. We kind of see that he starts to get his starts to get the blood, but at this point we don't see what happens because she kind of closes the bathroom, doesn't she, and cleans herself up. But of course Larry arrives home and is asking for Julia, and he's knocking on the bathroom door. Julia says she's sick, and that she'll be down in a bit, and he's like, "Can I get anything for you?" And she's like, "A brandy," and he's like, "Oh, right away, my love."
There is also during that when she's in the bathroom, there's this shot of her looking at herself in the mirror, and it's like you see the resolve in her face.
Yes, she's
almost sort of, she's obviously disturbed by what she's just done, but she's also sort of not exactly pleased with herself, but you can see that she kind of enjoyed it too. And that she's come to this decision. It's a bloody great shot, and all it is just a facial shot. It's just a close-up face shot. It's amazing.
Yeah, because she kind of starts off disturbed in her face, and then she becomes like, "No, I'm going to do this." And of course, I suppose she's still hoping that she could be with Frank once he's reborn. And
that's it. This whole thing is that at some point, she feels that Frank will take her away from it all. Take her away from this, I guess, dull life that she's leading. Yeah,
absolutely. It's exciting murdering people. I guess,
whatever you could say. I guess life with Frank would never be dull, would it?
No, absolutely not.
I mean, might not fucking survive very long.
I kind of feel like you'd just end up dying in a motorcycle accident or something crazy, like some crazy awful thing would happen, because Frank is clearly, if he's in a car, he's going to be speeding. That's just Frank,
It's in the story. It goes into more detail about what Frank has done. And how he's gone beyond all forms of pain and pleasure, and is just looking for the next thing, just constantly looking for the next thing, which is why he ends up with the box, because he's had all of this world's, all of the earthly delights he wants beyond,
Yes, yeah, he's basically done everything he can to pleasure himself in this life, and now he's looking for other, like you said, delights from the other dimensions. So she tells Larry she'll be down in a bit, and then of course she goes back into the attic, and Frank has now got kind of all of his nervous system, and he says, "It's hurting. I'm starting to get feeling again."
Yeah, you got to bring me more.
Yeah, he says he needs another body, and she's like, not more, like, not again. I can't do this again. And this is, of course, when Frank finally says, he's like, "I need to do this because they're going to find me soon." And she's like, "What? You didn't mention anything about people trying to find you." Of course, he's talking about the Cenobites. And he tells her the Cenobites as if she's meant to know what that means. And she's, "What are you talking about, mate?" But yeah, and he's like, "Oh, God." And then he's like, "Touch me," and you can see in her face, she's like, "Oh God, you're so icky right now." Like, it's like, "I love you, but you haven't even got your skin yet." Yeah. He's so sticky looking, but she does. She does.
The makeup is so good.
Oh, it's tremendous, isn't it? And it still holds up.
I mean, I think it took like 6 hours to apply.
I am not surprised.
And what's great about it as well is that almost every time you see him, like, more is added.
Yeah.
So you from the first time you see him and up to later,
it's one of the things.
It's more and more bits of flesh or bits of muscle and veins and things.
It's a reverse of American Werewolf in London, which I also loved. where, you know, he starts like more and more of him disappears until he's like an animatronic skeleton. Obviously here it's far more detailed, and the detail in the anatomy and stuff of Frank is just unbelievable. It's like, oh my god. But yes, so of course Larry calls for Julia, and then she's like, you know, put some music on, I'll be down in a minute. Put some music on so you won't hear the noises up here. And of course, Kirsty's working at the pet shop meanwhile, and she's getting shouted at by some asshole who wants to see the manager. And she sees the guy, the guy. Got a Norwegian
blue.
Sorry,
the old lady's got a Norwegian blue.
Yes, yeah. So she sees the guy coming along, and then he starts to eat crickets.
Yeah.
And she basically tells him to leave, doesn't she? And he does.
He's quite cordial about it.
He is, yes.
He eats his crickets, doesn't say a word, and leaves.
Yeah. And then Steve comes up and he's like, "Is something wrong?" And Kirsty's like, "This is something weird." I'd be like, "Did you not see that guy? Like, he was just like came in eating crickets." But God knows what happens in her life normally. If that's just like, oh, just something weird, I don't know. Don't worry about it. Tuesday. Nothing noteworthy. Yeah, what goes on at this pet shop every week?
You've also got little kids banging on the bloody glass of like.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, bastards.
So Julia brings her second victim to the house. Is
it the second one that's really even more creepy? Isn't he even more creepy?
Oh, they don't even show much of him, but he's awful. Yeah, I can't remember what he says now, but he's proper gross. But what I really love about this scene is like now Julia. Oh no, it might be. It's either this shot or it's the later shot. But in one of them, it gets to the point where Julia's now put nails in the wall so that she can hang her hammer up.
She's got that.
Hangs the hammer on the wall. It's like that's my murder hammer. I like to have it on the wall, ready for murders.
Yeah, I think it is this. It is this one.
I just love that she's got like she went to the trouble of just hanging the hammer up neatly on the wall.
And she pretty much dispatches him like
immediately.
In one hit.
Well, I would too, because he's proper creepy. This guy.
Done.
This guy was proper creepy, so I don't blame him. And now, yes, of course, he gets the blood and flesh, and he says he can taste it now. He's like, "Oh, it tastes. I can taste. I can taste now." Of course, he has a cigarette, and Julia basically says, "Like, I want to know what's going on. I've murdered 2 people now. Could you fill me in?"
Yeah.
And of course, Frank shows her the box and basically explains what happened. And Julia, I'm assuming she actually gets this as a vision. It's either kind of like we see it as the audience, but it's almost like
reacts to it.
Yeah, like she sees him getting torn apart by the Cenobites.
Mm-hmm. I'm guessing that the box is showing it to her, sort of thing.
Yeah. And he's like, "I'm going to live, and you're going to help me." And then he's like, and then Julia's like, "Yes, and they'll never find us, not in the whole world." It's like, what? These extra dimensional beings they're never gonna find you. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Like. But I guess, she's in massive lust and love over Frank. And,
she's completely blinded to everything by her lust for Frank. And I guess what she sees is a better life.
Yeah. And I love the next scene. So later we get Larry and Julia watching TV, and they're watching boxing.
Yeah.
And Larry's like that, he's such a coward in life, but he's like all about boxing and like he's really into
he's totally in it.
But he's shocked because Julia's completely into it, and normally it makes her sick.
She sat there just enjoying it.
But she says like, he's like, "I'm surprised you're watching this. Doesn't it normally make you feel sick?" Yeah. And Julia's like, "I've seen worse." It's like, I
love it. It's such like, and you could see. I mean, there was a total twinkle in her eye. She says that like as well. She's totally,
she's getting some excitement from this. She's definitely, it's kind of like you said, she's moved past being disturbed. She's kind of cool with it now, and she's starting to enjoy it. You can tell she's, you know, she's enjoying the secrecy, and she's enjoying the, you know, the thrill, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just one more little layer of deceit and, you know, pleasure that she's got over poor old Larry.
Yeah. But then Frank is doing some pest control upstairs, and he's banging.
There's a storm going on, and he's like chucking himself around, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's like nailed two rats to the wall.
Yeah, he's nailed rats to the wall. And
Julia's for low profile, dickhead.
I know, right? It's like, I'm assuming at this point Frank was like totally down with killing Larry. He's like, hey, if Larry comes up here, I'll get Larry to come up here and just kill him now, and we'll be done with this. But Julia's like, oh, I think I left the window open upstairs, and Larry's like, I'll go check, and Julia's like, no, don't worry, I'll go check. It's fine. But of course she can't stop him. He kind of marches straight upstairs saying, oh, it's fine, you know, I'm your knight in shining armor or whatever. And he opens the door, but he can't see anything. And he says, oh, it's probably just rats or something.
I think I think that you hear something and it's like, oh yeah, it's just rats sort of thing.
Yeah. And then of course, she's really not into having sex with Larry, but she needs to distract him, so she starts kissing him, and they go to bed. But then, like, she's already not into this act, right? But then while she's trying to have sex with him, Frank walks in, covered in blood, and starts skinning a rat in front of her.
Yeah,
it's like, Jesus Christ. Of course.
Did you notice the picture on the wall in that bedroom? There's like this hideous picture of like a little ballet dancer or something. It's like, Jesus Christ, that bloody picture of the ballet dancer is almost scarier than the Cenobites.
Do you know, I don't think I've ever noticed it. I'm going to have look that up after this. Yeah, I don't think I've seen it. But yeah, of course, she obviously is clear that Frank's thinking about killing Larry, and she's like, please, I can't take it. Please, don't.
Yeah,
stop.
And I do think that I do think there is that moment. I think is a little moment of humanity for her.
This is the moment I was referring to, where it's like there's that one moment in the movie.
Yeah, because she obviously doesn't really want Larry to die.
No, she just doesn't want to be with him anymore, I think. She's like, he'll do until I can find better, but I don't want him dead, like, you know.
Yeah, so there's like you said, it's probably one of our only gleaming bits of humanity.
Yeah. Of course, Larry thinks she's talking to him, because of course he would. And he's like, I don't understand what the problem is. You came on to me, I thought this was cool, but fine. And of course he walks out of the room because he's not Frank. If he was Frank, probably would have continued anyway. But but being Larry,
but then that would have been more of a reason to do it. For Frank.
Absolutely. It's like one extreme to the other, isn't it? And so of course Larry can't understand it. He walks out of the room, as you would, you know, leave, don't continue. And of course Julie is kind of relieved that Larry's managed to survive.
Yeah.
And then I think we cut to the restaurant, don't we, with Kirsty and Larry having some time, having a drink. And Larry says he's concerned about Julia. And basically it's almost like Larry's realised, like, I don't think she's really into me either now. And I think this is, you know, I think he's kind of realised that, maybe she doesn't like me that much, actually.
Yeah, I think it's you know, clearly they've shown that, even though they haven't really explained it, that they've obviously had problems for a while.
Yes.
And he's only really sort of beginning to get it now.
Well, you get the impression he's talking to Kirsty because Kirsty said before about her. And now he's like, okay, now I can confide in my daughter, because she's said for a long time that Julia's not right for me, you know. And but then he's like, but you know, come and try and be friends with her, you know, to kind of save my marriage, I guess. And she agrees. She's like, okay, I'll try and not be horrible to her. You know, fair enough. I'll do what I can. Of course, meanwhile, Frank's kind of wanting more. And I think at this point he's like, I want Larry specifically. I specifically want Larry.
I think he says he needs skin.
Yeah.
He wants,
Yeah, he's basically reconstituted, but the skin's not. Because it's weird, isn't it? Because you'd assume the skin would come back after he feasted again. But at this point, he's like, no, I just need skin now. I just need to wear a skin. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess there's only so far that his regeneration will take him.
Yeah. And of course, he says Larry. Julia says no, but then he's like, well, you better find someone quick because they're going to be coming soon.
Yeah.
And of course, Julia brings another man to the house. And I'm trying to think what happens next. Oh yes, Kirsty is looking.
Yeah, Kirsty's going to sort of look in on Julia to sort of like, I don't know, cheer her up or something or whatever.
Yeah.
And she sees Julia taking the next victim into the house.
Yeah. The man walks in and he says he gets lonely sometimes, and she's like, "Hey, come upstairs into my creepy attic." And he thinks it's a game, doesn't he? He's like, "What is this? Is this a game?"
Yeah, it's a game.
And of course, he sees Frank and he's like, "Jesus Christ! Like, what the fuck is going on?"
Yeah, they sort of botch this one, don't they?
Yeah, because Frank's just he's kind of like just slumped against the wall, isn't he? Kind of like he sees her, and he's like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
And of course Kirsty walks in, following the man.
She sneaked in through the back.
Yeah,
the back. She's coming up the sort of stairs,
and she sees Frank. And can you imagine? Like, you'd be like, she's expecting Julia to be cheating on Larry. That's why she's gone into the house. She's like, I'm going to catch you in the act. And then you get up there and you see that, you're like, this was not what I was expecting. Like, this is okay.
No, and the poor guy, he's half sort of devoured, isn't he? So his skin is sort of softening off of him, and he's trying to sort of get away. And bless him, he's not getting very far, is he?
No, he's not getting far. And of course, so she sees him feeding off of the guy. And Frank tries to. First of all, he kind of tries to grab Kirsty, and then he's like, "Kirsty, it's Frank, Uncle Frank."
It's all right. It's Uncle Frank. It's like, like that explains anything.
Yeah,
great, thanks.
And then he's like, "Do you remember? Come to Daddy." And it's like that's it's like, poor choice of words, my friend. That's just made you way more creepy, and you're already just basically a corpse. So, So. Kirsty basically comes in, doesn't she? She tells him not to touch her. He's like, "Do not touch me." And then I love. He basically starts to get violent. She kind of falls over and grabs the puzzle box, doesn't she? She's got the puzzle box.
Well, first of all, he's got her against the wall.
Oh, he punches her through punches him through the stomach. Yes.
Yeah, she basically gets a handful of guts.
Yeah. And he reacts because, of course, he has nerves now, so he reacts in pain.
Yeah,
she grabs.
He certainly feels that.
And she grabs the puzzle box, and of course she then realizes how much it means to him because he's like, "No, don't, please give me the box, give me the box." And she's of course like, "Yeah, you want it? Go fucking get it," and throws it through the window.
Yeah, she says, "You want to go get it?" She throws it through the window, and of course he's like screaming no, and that. Because he's away from the door now, she's able to get away.
Yeah, and of course
she gets to the bottom of the stairs, and she manages to get out of the house, and the box is just sort of like on the path, in front of the door, and you think, no way, she threw that like that.
That'd be in the park opposite or something.
That's the street, that would at least be in the street. That box.
I would have loved it if, like, she went outside and there was this massive car crash where she just, like, thrown it into the windscreen of some point.
Killed someone.
Just murdered someone with the box.
Like that scene in talking of American Werewolf again, the end scene where more people die in that movie than the werewolf ever kills.
It's the panic that kills everyone in that movie. Like, the werewolf kills a couple of people max, and the panic kills countless, with that big pile up. Oh, I love that movie so much.
I often wonder though. I don't think we actually because we've done American Werewolf.
I think we did.
I don't think we I don't think we thought about it at the time, but had he lived, like, had he not been killed at the end of that movie, like, he'd have lived for another day. If he'd have gone to the next scene where he would have seen his mate and all the others, would all of those bodies been on him? Because technically he didn't kill them, but they were killed through his actions, if you like.
Yeah, I don't know.
So would he have had like a cinema completely full of people?
I guess so. Yeah, I guess he would have, because it's like because the werewolf caused the deaths in some way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess so. I guess that cinema would start getting very busy with the undead if he kept going. Eventually, they would have had to have like moved to like Wembley Arena or something to hold their gatherings. Like, for fuck's sake, kill yourself.
Yeah, we're talking genocide now. You really must kill yourself.
Really must kill yourself, David. But yeah, so I love this. This was a really smart move, like throwing it out the window, because obviously he's blood and guts. He's not going to go outside in public. So she's basically effectively got away. But of course, she heads out and she grabs the box, but then faints. And is taken to hospital.
She passes out and wakes up in the hospital. And again, the doctor, what a weird fucking dude he is.
Yes. And
he's just like, oh, do you remember anything? Do you know this? It's like, what is this? And he's like, pulls out the box, and he's like, you're acting very peculiarly for a doctor.
He acts like she's a criminal.
Yeah.
It's bizarre, because he's even like, the police will want to speak to you. It's like, what about what? Yeah. Fainting in the street?
That's exactly what I thought. It's like, why do the police want to speak to her? She just passed out on the street.
Yeah, if you pass out, the police don't want to speak to you. They're like, yeah, you're fine. Because the doctors would have checked for drugs, so it's not that. Like, at that point, it's like, well, she just fainted. The fuck are you talking about, mate? Like,
yeah. But years ago, once my wife, when she was giving blood, she left the sort of the donation thing, and she passed out, and she literally
she woke up in the cells.
Yeah, she passed out on the street. Never once, I don't think, did the
she'd wake up in prison.
Oh, the police will want to talk to you.
Yeah, like, what the hell are you talking about? Bizarre. But yeah, so the doctor kind of leaves the puzzle box on the table after threatening her, and goes to think about the lawsuit that's coming his way. But of course, she can't get out of the room because the door's locked. And she starts to.
That's the other thing. It's like, why would you lock the door?
It's weird. I almost wonder if it's some like other dimensional kind of weirdness going on here, because it is odd. Like, the whole scene's odd, because when she wakes up as well, the nurse is watching something really weird on the TV, and you only get a glimpse of it. But you're like, what was
like
that?
A carnation. It's like a carnation blooming, isn't it?
It's like, what?
The actual room itself is disgusting.
It's really weird. And of course, she starts playing with the puzzle box, and starts kind of making various forms, and then
I do like that. I think this was her first movie, I think, and
was it really? She's great.
Yeah, it's her first, and a lot of people sort of said her performance is pretty bad, and I don't think it is.
I didn't think so.
She particularly does a really good job here of showing the sort of like the fascination and glee that the box has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as someone who's innocent and not seeking thrills, she's just like drawn to it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, suddenly the wall opens up, and she walks through it into the other dimension. And we get the awesome, one of my favorite creatures, the Cenobite Monster.
He's the engineer.
He's so good.
I love that. The design is amazing.
He's like simultaneously hideous and cute at the same time somehow. I can't explain it, but I kind of love him.
I understand that. Yeah,
that makes sense?
I think I understand that.
He's just kind of awesome.
I think it's the big eyes.
Yeah, it's the eyes. It's definitely the eyes.
Weirdly makes him cute.
Yeah,
I think it's the mean. Yeah. I just love the fact that he's got like two sets of arms, and it's the arms that are basically his legs, I guess.
Yeah.
That are propelling him like by traversing the walls.
Yeah.
He's pulling himself along the wall, which is great. It is a really weird. The weirdest thing is the engineer in the story is kind of just another Cenobite. it's not like that at all, and he speaks.
No, the movie is quite different. Yeah,
because I think the thing that we'll get onto it later when we talk about the coming remake. But like we said, the Cenobites are different in the story.
They absolutely. It's a
different. But yeah, the engineer is I love that design. It's so cool.
So
and
cool.
He's got the chomping teeth and stuff, and she manages to get away.
Yeah.
And the wall's closed, and she thinks, you sort of think, oh well, I'm safe now. It's fine. Everything's gone back to normal.
Yeah.
No, it hasn't.
No,
it really hasn't.
No, because the Cenobites appear, and one of them puts his fingers in her mouth.
It's the Chatterer.
I love him. That's a great design as well.
The Chatterer is such a fantastic design. I mean, they're all fucking awesome.
They are. They're all iconic. These ones, absolutely.
The Chatterer is amazing. I do love the way he just walks towards her, and as she's screaming, he just puts his fingers in her mouth.
Yeah.
And grabs her, and it's like, that is terrifying.
Yeah.
The way it's like, oh, really great. And also like the I think when the female Cenobite, when she first appears, actually, when Frank first summons them, when she appears, I think she's got like she has a throat gash, doesn't she?
Yes, she was a nun, I think, originally.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that, but I love the way when you first see her, she's got her thumb in her wound, and she's like stroking her wound.
Because she also speaks with quite a rasp as well because of presumably because of the wound,
she's
which
got
is
a great
nice.
Tracheotomy.
Yeah.
And I think apparently originally both the Butterball and the Chatterer were supposed to have lines.
Oh, really?
But they realised that once that all the masks and stuff were on, they couldn't hear or say anything.
I think it's more effective that they don't, actually. I'm kind of glad they don't.
I think so too. I think it is, yeah. Especially for the Chatterer. He's much more terrifying when he doesn't speak. He just chatters.
Yeah. So, of course...
And I do like the fact that there was... I saw Doug Bradley couldn't see anything.
No.
Either. So none of them could see it. The only one who could see anything was the female.
Mm-hmm.
The rest couldn't see anything because of the contacts. And of course he kept missing his mark because of the skirt he was wearing as well, Doug Bradley.
Yeah.
And they had whenever you see Doug Bradley holding the box, because they only had a few of them and they were actually quite delicate, they didn't want him to drop it and break it. So every time you see Doug Bradley, there is a person underneath him waiting to catch the box just in case he drops it.
That's amazing. I didn't know that.
I think that's fantastic, isn't it?
That's really cool. Yeah.
Imagine your job on set is to stand in front of Pinhead and catch the box if he drops it.
Hey, you're like down in the pub with your mates, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I worked on Hellraiser." Like, "Oh really?" Yeah. You're like, "Yeah, I was in it. I was in Hellraiser." It's like, "Oh, what did you do?" Like, "Oh, I was the guy that had to catch the box if Doug Bradley dropped it." Like, oh great, so cool. So yes, of course, the lead Cenobite, who, I think, much to Barker's chagrin, has now been called Pinhead forever, and that's that.
I mean, I think he's kind of
he's accepted it now. I think, I think he accepts it now. I don't think he was happy about it at first, though. But
no,
so
he doesn't. He never gives him he didn't give him a name, and so at the time.
Well, no, I mean, he was only one of many Cenobites, so it's only now that they've kind of made him the focus really since the movie. And like I said, I think he's gone back and kind of retconned some of it to make Pinhead more of a character in the books now as well. And the other media.
But I think with the sequel, is it the Scarlet Gospel, which I haven't read.
Me either.
He's a lot more fleshed out.
Yeah.
He's a lot more fleshed out in that than I think he is. So yeah.
So, of course, Pinhead says, the box, you opened it, we came. And, of course, Kirsty's like, the fuck is going on? I don't she's like, literally no idea.
It's just a box.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it isn't.
And Pinhead says that they're explorers in the further regions of experience. And Kirsty basically says it was a mistake. She didn't mean to open it. But he's like, no, we've come now, and you know,
we have to take someone with us.
Yeah. She's got to come with them and taste their pleasures. But of course, Kirsty thinks quick and mentions Frank and says, "Hey, you're looking for Frank." And of course, I love that the female Cenobite's like, we don't care about Frank. But then Pinhead's like, actually, I do care about Frank if he's escaped, because they're like, no one can escape us, and she's like, someone has. It's like, someone has escaped you. And of course, the female.
There's such great lines here as well. You get the "no more tears, please. It's such a waste of good suffering." I love that line. It's brilliant. And the one that this is also where you get the line from that was the big selling point.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Trailer. Yeah, we'll tear your soul apart if you cross us, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Your suffering will be legendary even in hell.
Yeah. So of course she's making this deal. She says she'll lead them to Frank if they'll let her go and take him back instead of her.
And they don't actually agree to it.
Well, no, because it's a shit deal. Because they both open the box. They both need to go there as far as the Cenobites are concerned. So she's like kind of hoping. She's like, well, you didn't say no, so I mean, all he basically says is that if Kirsty betrays them, they'll tear her soul apart. They do not agree to the deal, however. They just say that if you fuck around with us, we'll tear your soul apart. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I guess I guess it's all she can hope for at this point. It's like, well, you know.
Hold on to what you can,
Yeah. So Julie is obviously terrified that Kirsty's going to tell Larry everything. And Julia's like, we just need to leave. But Frank's like, I can't leave because I haven't got any bloody skin. This is an issue right here. So, of course, Julia eventually agrees. Okay.
To be honest, she could have just bought him a mask and a hat.
Or just another person.
Yeah.
Just another person. Would you dress like a fucking Ninja Turtle in disguise? Yeah.
Exactly. It works for the turtles.
It's like the goriest version of that. It works.
Hey, just put some bandages on, and it worked for the Invisible Man.
The bandages would work. Man. Yeah, the bandages would work. Had a horrible accident. What did they say in the Invisible Man? Did they say he must have hit his head climbing over the wall or something? Because they're convinced he's a prisoner, aren't they? In the Invisible Man. I love that film. Is so funny. It's got such a great sense of humor. The original.
I love,
such a great sense of humor.
It is fun. It's hilarious.
So, of course, Larry arrives home, and she's like, you won't fucking believe what's going on. She's like, I don't even know where to begin. It's best if you come see for yourself. Like, okay.
Best if I show you. Poor bastard.
Yeah. So, of course, Kirsty's got out of the hospital, and Steve's looking for her. She ends up running home, and she starts banging on the door.
Again, the weirdness with the hospital staff.
Yeah,
is he comes. The boyfriend comes in, and the nurse is like, "Well, she was here," and she's like, "Oh, well, I suppose I'll have to go and look for her," or something. And you think, what kind of fucking hospital is this?
It is like some crazy fucking hospital. I don't know. So she's banging on the door saying like, Daddy, let me in, it's me, it's Kirsty. Julia answers, and she kind of acts like she's like, oh yeah, of course, she's acting kind of cool and nice at this point.
All normal.
Yeah. And of course, she runs in and hugs her quote unquote father.
Yes.
And she explains that Frank's upstairs and he wants to kill him, and of course, Frank says, Frank's dead now. I had to do it. I killed him. I put him out of his misery. Which I'm glad he said, because he's got quite a bit of blood on him and stuff, and it's like, it's going to look a bit suspicious.
You can see the sort of what I like is that he's got
in the back you can see the seam,
a line in his scalp where it's like, but Kirsty doesn't say anything about it, and you think, you can bloody well see that.
Oh, you can see it a mile away.
Line, he doesn't look well.
No. But yeah, of course, he says that he had to do it. He had to put him out of his misery. Kirsty wants to see the body, So Julia takes her upstairs to the attic. And Kirsty's obviously disgusted.
The skinned body there, lying on the floor.
Yeah. And then, of course, the Cenobites appear. And they say that they want the man who did this. Causing Kirsty to run out of the room and downstairs.
She says, "No, you can't have my father," because she thinks.
She thinks it's her father. Yeah. And these Cenobites must be so confused by Kirsty's actions, because Kirsty doesn't know what the hell's going on, but the Cenobites are like, "What are you talking about? Like, we're after Frank, not your father."
Exactly, you brought us here for this.
Yeah. So Julia tries to block her leaving, and of course then we get the reveal where he's like, Frank's like, "What's the matter?" Or Larry is like, "What's the matter?" And Frank says, "Stay with us. We can be happy here." And then, of course, he says, "Come to Daddy."
Come to Daddy. And it's like, oh. What the thing about the Frank is, he's played by 3 different people.
Is he really? I didn't know that. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, so Frank, the initial Frank is played by Sean Chapman.
Yeah.
The monster Frank is played by Oliver Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, the last one is played by... Andrew Robinson.
Yeah.
And I genuinely think he's at his creepiest when he's the dad.
Yeah.
And he says that, like, the come to daddy thing is like, oh, that is just one slight more level of creepiness that he adds to that line.
It should
the way he says it.
It should be pointed out that Frank could do one hell of a Larry voice impression as well. He's very good at it.
Well, I think in the story, it says because they're brothers, they kind of sound the same.
They sound similar. In the movie, they don't sound quite so similar. So it's like,
no.
Okay.
I mean, they dubbed his they dubbed Frank's voice anyway.
Yeah.
But it's I also think they didn't really look like each other either. So the fact that his bone structure fits quite nicely underneath.
Oh yeah.
Larry's face is quite impressive, but it's fine. We'll let it slide.
Again, you can kind of be like, okay, they're brothers. Well, like, maybe, for the sake of the movie,
Exactly.
Of course, Frank gets a knife and goes to stab Kirsty. Kirsty moves out of the way, and of course he stabs Julia.
First of all, Kirsty realizes that it's on, and she scratches him.
Yes. Oh, yes, she scratches his face open.
Yeah, she scratches his face, and he's like, well, that didn't last very long.
No, that disguise lasted 5 minutes. Great.
Yeah. So that's when he goes to stab her, and Kirsty manages to get out of the way, and he stabs Julia.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Well, I guess I've gone this far now. I guess I'll just have to kill you."
It's just like nothing personal sort of thing, and it shows how clearly he didn't give a fuck about her.
No, he puts his fingers through her skin and stuff as well. It's gross.
Yeah, he basically sucks her dry as well and leaves her on the landing.
Yeah, and of course Kirsty then leads him to the attic. And of course she then
there's a little bit of a chasey bit, isn't there? There's a little bit of
a little bit of a chase, but she's leading him up there. I think is kind of the idea. Of course, she's now upset because she realizes that's not Frank on the floor. That's her dad.
Yeah.
And of course, Frank says everything's all right. Frank's here, your dear Uncle Frank. And of course, that's all the Cenobites wanted to hear.
Yeah.
In they come, and I love he's like, "What the hell's going on?" But it's pretty obvious, mate. You've seen this before. This light show, know you're screwed. And of course, they block his way out.
And he says to Kirsty, "You set me up, you bitch."
Yeah.
And of course, basically runs out to stab her.
Yeah.
And his arm is stopped by one of the chains.
Yep.
The hooks.
Yeah. And of course he tries to lie to the Cenobites, and the female says, we had to hear it from your own lips. And Pinhead, of course, tells Kirsty, this isn't for your eyes.
Yeah. But she can't get out.
No, of course. And this is where we get the shot that was teased at the start of the movie. Because, of course, we see the hooks, but then it cuts away and we don't actually see the full thing. We finally get to see it as all of these hooks start cutting into the flesh and stretching out his body. And then, of course, we've got Kirsty at the door, and she looks at Frank, and he just says, "Jesus wept." What I love about it as well is that you can see the pleasure on his face. Like, he's enjoying it, because of course that's the thing, isn't it? It's the most pain, but also the most ecstasy, and you can see in that moment he's not only in agony, but he's also having great pleasure. He's smiling. He's not saying Jesus wept in agony. He's saying it with a smile. He's enjoying it, and then of course he blows up. Basically, he's like torn apart into pieces.
I think there's a more graphic version of that which was cut out.
I'm sure there was.
I don't think it's been reinstated at all.
Not sure whether hopefully one day.
But yeah, I did like. Actually, there was one thing I read about the sex scene. When they filmed the sex scene again with the board of certification. Yeah, there was a line about you can show two thrusts, but 3 is too much.
And they were like, "It's okay. We'll just cut to some moving in people. We'll cut to people moving a bed up the stairs." So of course Kirsty makes a run for it, but the Cenobites are like, "Yeah, we never agreed to this. Like, we're still taking you.
You're coming too."
Yeah. Kirsty, of course, gets hold of the puzzle box. As Pinhead says, "We have such sights to show you" line. Yeah. But she sends him to hell. She messes around with the box and figures out that she can send them away. And basically starts sending them all away as the house starts to collapse. Steve comes in the house, and like you can see this really awkward shot. You can see, because he walks in, and you can see that part of the roof is like basically moving, where people are obviously holding it up, ready to drop it, and it's kind of like it's already falling down as he walks in. And then he walks through the door, and obviously the ceiling collapses in. They go to get out of the house, and then of course the engineer comes back, doesn't he?
The box sort of slightly reconfigures, doesn't it? And
yes.
When they open the door, it's just black out there.
Yeah.
And the engineer turns up, and there's a scrabble for the box.
Yeah, she gets electrocuted, doesn't she, and drops it, and she's trying to grab for it, and
a little scuffle as they try and she tries to get the box back, and again she manages to sort of to banish him.
Sends the good boy away.
That's again that's the actual light effects of the lightning and stuff, which those aren't terribly good. No. But apparently by that point of the film they pretty much run out of money.
Yeah.
And I think Barker said him and some guy basically did that like on a weekend, right. And he said he's surprised they look as good as they are. They were absolutely pissed apparently at the time. So
right, no, it looks fine. Yeah,
it's all right. I've certainly seen worse, but it doesn't hold up as well as the rest of the the majority of the effects.
Yeah. And then of course they get out of the house, and the house basically burns down. And of course she then takes the puzzle box and throws it into the fire. And we see the homeless man from earlier. He walks into the fire and he just turns into a massive dragon skeleton thing. It's great.
Ugly demon-y thing.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I love that. It's great. Yeah, it is awesome.
It's an awesome
and
shot.
And then picks up the box and flies off.
Yes. And then, of course, we see some other poor sap, either poor sap or idiot. I'm guessing actually no, it must be purposeful at that point. You know what you're getting yourself into when you buy it. He's with the Chinese dealer again, and he's "What's your pleasure, sir?" And that's where the movie ends.
Yeah.
Until part 2, which I guess being your favorite of the movies, we will get to one day for sure.
Oh yes, absolutely.
I absolutely love Hellraiser. I think it holds up remarkably well.
It really does. It
looks great.
Still good. It's still the effects are still great. The story's still good.
Yeah.
The performances are brilliant. Like we said, especially Claire Higgins and Andrew Robinson, who's great because he plays like put upon so well.
Yes.
And then I think he does such a good job of switching it up and being creepy. Frank.
you believe he's Frank, for sure. You 100% believe he's Frank when he's meant to be.
Yeah, it's a remarkable movie, and again, like we said, that they didn't realize what they had.
No.
At the time, you didn't realize.
Well, it was a small movie. It's $1 million budget.
Yeah, they just saw it as a gothic horror. They didn't, and it was, like we said, it's about the family, but people just fell in love with Pinhead, as the public do with these monsters. We love these monsters, even even though what they are monsters. They do horrible things, but we love these things. And Pinhead is such a great image. He was so amazingly designed, by Barker.
Yeah.
And greatly, brought to life by Bradley.
Yeah.
It's such a great fucking,
So I'm reading
story.
here,
and like I said, he's so different. Like we said before, he's so different from those other. He's not just the butcher. He's not a.
Well, they're not really the focus of the film. They're not. Frank is the slasher of the movie, if there was a slasher in the film.
Yeah, he's the Hellraiser, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's the actual Hellraiser of the story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm reading here. Apparently, it made $20 million.
Yes.
So that's a hell of a fucking. It's a hell of a debut.
It cost, I think, $1 million. So
because it was Barker's debut movie as well, full feature length. Anyway.
Well, he'd made a movie. So
he'd made shorts.
Yeah, and also there was a movie based on his script before. Was it Transmutants or something like that? Also called Underworld.
Yes.
And he was so pissed off and disappointed with
I'm doing it myself.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what he did. He said, "I'm going to do it myself." And what I love is he's so generous to that. He said it was a pure joy to work on because everybody on that set, they were all most of them were veterans and stuff. And he said they all treated him so well, and he said they completely put up with my ineptitude and my lack of ability and stuff, but they were all so generous to him that it was a great experience for him.
Yeah. So
I do. I mean, Barker is an amazing talent. He's a brilliant artist.
Oh yeah, incredible.
Great, fantastic writer. He's massively intelligent. He is a really, cool guy.
He really is. Apparently, this film's working title was Sadomasochist from Beyond the Grave.
Yeah.
If that's not a band, that needs to be a band. That's amazing.
Thought so, wouldn't you?
It's also a great movie name. I mean, that should be a movie.
Yeah. It really should.
It's awesome.
After 2, that they obviously get progressively worse.
Of course, and
they they focus on different things as it goes along.
Yeah,
and I think that we'll talk about that when we get to number 2. But the whole Leviathan stuff, I love all that Leviathan stuff.
Yes.
Kind of gets disregarded later. They don't.
Yeah,
do
it's interesting, isn't it? Because the Leviathan's kind of the kind of head of all of it. In the sequel, and then they kind of drop it, and then it's like it does become the Pinhead show. Apart from obviously the thing, it kind of goes one of two ways: is either the Pinhead show, or because Pinhead's not necessarily the focus, they started getting movies that weren't Hellraiser movies, and then just shoving Pinhead in at the end, awkwardly, here's Pinhead, it's a Hellraiser movie now. Okay. But yeah, they do get progressively worse. But there are some, there's some moments in most of them. I
guess like all of the sequels to these horror franchises, they all seem to get worse. But there's usually some sort of good kill or great makeup effect or something that's in one of them that at least it gives you something, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
So apparently there's 2 things in the work at the moment. So there's a remake coming.
Yes, I've heard there's a remake.
Yeah. Which is going to be through Hulu, I think, and that's going to be directed by David Bruckner.
David Bruckner. What's David Bruckner done?
Yeah, he's got a film out right now. I think he's called The Night House.
Okay,
I think that's what I'm thinking of. So yeah, that's got thing, and they've cast Jamie Clayton as Pinhead in that.
Oh, they are doing Pinhead, are they? Okay.
Yeah, she's gonna be. She is gonna be. She's a trans actress,
right?
Who was in Sensei and
I've not watched Sensei yet.
The L Word. I started it. I didn't get on with it.
Oh really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm surprised. I thought they might go a different way and not bother with Pinhead and just kind of do a.
Well, I think they want to make her sort of more of the androgynous.
Yeah, I mean that totally
story,
works.
Which makes a lot more, which makes a lot of sense.
It does.
And I guess if you're not going to have Doug Bradley,
I agree. Do something different.
Then I think do something. Yeah, do something different. Go for it for the.
I mean, I'm not aware of her. I don't think I've seen her performances, but I've certainly not watched Sense8 or anything like that. But I'm curious to see another iteration of it, and starting over with something new and fresh could be cool.
Yeah,
why not?
But there's also a TV series as well, which is going to be a sort of the movie, I think, is going to be a straight up remake and disregard everything that came before.
So it's going to be a bloody Chucky situation, isn't it? Where we got a Chucky series that's actually still continuing the story from the Chucky movies, and then a Chucky movie reboot, which is oh god.
Yeah, so the series is going to take in, from what I can gather, all of the previous history, as it were.
Right. Okay.
I guess pick and choose from what that is. So that's a HBO TV series. I'm not sure what the details on that are. A lot more sketchy. They're not it's not as solidified, but that's going to be apparently David Gordon Green is up for directing some of the episodes of that.
Okay.
So yeah, there's that one. That one sounds like, I don't know, and I think Barker's involved with that one as well.
Right. Okay.
So I don't know about that one quite so much, but I think that with the movie, it's like, okay, if you're going to completely reboot it, fine.
Yeah.
Do your own thing with it.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. I can't imagine it's going to be as good as the original, but
no, I think unless they can take it in a bit of a different direction, and if they did that would be really fun. I mean, obviously, keep the idea of the Cenobites and all of that, and the lament configuration. But I just mean, like, tell a different story from the human perspective. Like, it doesn't need to be the same story, does it? It doesn't need to have
no.
But yeah, I'd be interested to see what they do with it. I'm curious. But yes,
and I think also there was I think they had like legal troubles at one point. So I think there was, which is why. So I think similar to a lot of these things, the bits get broken up, and some people owns this, and a different company owns that. So I think this is why you end up with different iterations of the same thing. So we'll see how it goes.
Yes, absolutely. But yes, that was Hellraiser, highly recommended by us. Of course, next week we will be back covering Villeneuve's Dune and presumably some other movies because, got another week to go. But happy Halloween, everybody. And,
happy Halloween.
We will catch you next time.
Bye.